My parents sat me down and presented me with a legal contract to donate my unborn child to my sister because she had crashed her car while live streaming. They called it a solution. I called it the moment I decided to destroy them. It happened on a Tuesday evening at their mahogany dining table. The room smelled like roast chicken and expensive candle wax, the kind my mother bought to mask the scent of her own anxiety. My husband, Dave, was away on a business trip in Chicago, which I now realize was the only reason this dinner was happening at all. They knew Dave would have flipped the table. They knew I was easier to corner when I was alone. I looked down at the piece of paper they had slid across the polished wood. It wasn't a napkin or a notebook page. It was thick, cream-colored resume paper, the kind used for legal documents. At the top, in a bold, cheerful font that looked like it belonged on a wedding invitation, were the words, "The transfer of guardianship, a loving gift." I looked up at my mother. She was wearing that tight, strained smile she always wore when she was trying to sell a house with a cracked foundation. Next to her sat my older sister, Bella, dabbing her dry eyes with a tissue. And at the head of the table sat my dad, staring intently at his shoes like they were the most fascinating things in the world. "I don't understand," I said. My hand instinctively went to my stomach. I was 7 months pregnant. The baby kicked, a sharp little jab against my ribs as if he knew something was wrong. "What is this?" "It's a solution, honey," my mom said, her voice shaking with a forced, brittle optimism. "We've been talking as a family, and we realized this is the only way to fix the cosmic imbalance that has happened. God gave you this baby so easily. You didn't even have to try. And poor Bella, well, you know her struggles. You know how much she's suffered." Bella let out a small, pathetic whimper. She looked up at me with wide, teary blue eyes. "I just have so much love to give, Hannah, and you, let's be honest, you're so career-focused. You just got that promotion. We all know you're going to go back to work immediately. A baby deserves a full-time mother, someone who lives for them." My blood ran cold. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "So," I whispered, my voice trembling, "you want me to give you my baby? My son?" "Not give," my mom corrected quickly, waving her hand as if swatting away a fly. "Share. But Bella would be the primary caregiver. Legally. It makes sense, doesn't it? You get to keep your career, Bella gets to be a mother, and the baby stays in the family. We even had a lawyer draft this up so it's all clean. We'll pay for everything. It's a win-win." I picked up the paper. My hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled against the table. It wasn't just a suggestion. It was a full adoption agreement. They had filled in my due date. They had even filled in the baby's name. They didn't use the name Dave and I had picked, which was Leo. They had written Braden. "You want me to sign over my son?" I repeated, feeling the room spin. "To Bella? To the woman who crashed her car 3 months ago because she was live streaming a makeup tutorial while driving on the highway?" "That was an accident," Bella snapped, the sad act dropping for a split second to reveal the petulant child underneath. "And I'm ready now. I've done the nursery. I bought the crib. I'm ready, Hannah. Don't be selfish." Selfish. That was the word that snapped me back to reality. That was the trigger. I stood up. I took the heavy, expensive paper, tore it in half, and then tore it in half again. I dropped the pieces onto the untouched roast chicken. "Get out of my way," I said. "Hannah, sit down." My dad finally spoke, his voice booming in that way that used to make me freeze as a child. "Your sister needs this. You have everything. You have a husband, a house, a career. Can't you do one thing for this family? Can't you make one sacrifice?" "My child is not a sacrifice," I hissed. "He is a human being." I walked out the front door without looking back. As I got into my car and locked the doors, I could see my mother and sister standing on the porch, screaming at me. I couldn't hear the words through the glass, but I knew the rhythm. I was the ungrateful one. I was the villain. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part happened when I got home. I unlocked my front door, exhausted and terrified. I walked down the hallway to the nursery, just wanting to sit in the rocking chair and feel safe. But when I opened the door, I froze. Someone had been there. My soft blue blankets were gone, replaced with beige and cream ones. The mobile I had made by hand was in the trash can, and painted on the wall in fresh, wet, navy blue letters was the name Braden. They weren't asking, they were taking. And they had a key. This wasn't a sudden break in sanity. This was the climax of a 30-year horror show. Bella is 2 years older than me, and from the moment she was born, she was the protagonist of our family's reality show. She was the platinum blonde doll my mother dressed up, and I was the tech support they ignored until they needed money. When Bella failed math, the teacher was fired. When I failed math, I was grounded. When Bella wrecked her car, Dad bought her a newer one with better safety features. When I needed a car for college, I was told to take the bus because suffering builds character. Bella's life was a series of expensive disasters: failed actress, failed boutique owner, failed influencer. Every failure was someone else's fault, and every fall was cushioned by my parents' checkbook. Then she married Chad, a man who was just as allergic to work as she was, and the infertility saga began. For 3 years, my life was held hostage by Bella's womb. Every holiday was a funeral for a baby that didn't exist. If I got a promotion, I was told to shut up because Bella was grieving. If I bought a house, I was told it was insensitive to have spare bedrooms. Then I got pregnant, and the jealousy turned into something dangerous. I called the police immediately after finding the nursery vandalized. I stood there, shaking, pointing at the wet paint on the wall. The officer looked at it, looked at me, and shrugged. "Ma'am, unless you have video proof of a break-in, it's a civil matter," he said, already closing his notebook. "It looks like a family dispute. Maybe you should just talk to them." "My family painted my wall," I yelled. "They came into my house. Did they have a key? I think my mom might have had an emergency key." Well, there you go. No forced entry. It's not a crime to redecorate. Change your locks. I watched him drive away, realizing that the law wasn't going to help me. I was on my own. I changed the locks that night. I installed cameras on every corner of the house. When Dave got home and saw the name Braden on the wall, he didn't scream. He went deadly quiet. "We are moving," he said. "We can't move, Dave. I'm 7 months pregnant. Then we are going to war." The next day, the harassment escalated from vandalism to psychological warfare. My mother showed up at the door, banging on the wood like she was the police. "Let me in, Hannah. We need to discuss the transition plan. You're being irrational." "There is no transition plan," I screamed through the Ring camera. "You are being abusive," she shrieked back, her face distorted in the lens. "Bella is depressed. She is suicidal because of you. If she hurts herself, it is on your hands. You have a spare baby. She has none." A spare baby. Like he was a backup generator. Then Bella took it online. She wrote long, rambling Facebook posts about how her sister was a surrogate who was now holding the baby hostage for extortion money. She didn't use my name, but she used my town, my job title, and my initials. Strangers started commenting. "Give the mother her baby! You heartless monster! How can you steal a child?" She had twisted the narrative so effectively that I was the villain in my own pregnancy. Then came the knock on the door that every parent dreads. CPS. A tired-looking social worker stood there. "We received an anonymous report that you are using heroin and plan to sell the infant on the black market. The caller claimed they saw needle marks on your arms." I felt the blood drain from my face. I let her in. I pulled up my sleeves to show my clean arms. I showed her my medical records. I showed her the nursery, painted back to blue. She inspected my fridge. She inspected my trash cans. She looked under my bed. It was a violation of everything I held private, all because Bella wanted to pull the strings. The social worker closed her file after 20 minutes. "This looks malicious," she said quietly. "But ma'am, if you believe someone is trying to take your infant, you need to alert the hospital. We call this fetal abduction. It happens more than you think." Fetal abduction. The words hung in the air like smoke. I called the hospital. I put my account on lockdown, password protected, no visitors, no information given over the phone. But Bella was relentless. 2 weeks before my due date, I got a text from an unknown number. It was her. "You don't deserve him? You're cold. You're barren where it counts, in the heart. I'm going to save him. He belongs with me." I showed Dave. "That's it," he said. "We're hiring a private investigator. I want to know everything. I want to know why they are so desperate." We hired a guy named Miller, ex-cop. Expensive. Cruel efficiency. "Find me something," I told him. "My parents say she's infertile. They say she's a victim. I want to know if that's true." Miller called me 3 days later. His voice was grim. "You might want to sit down," he said. "I found some medical records, and I found some financial records for your parents." "Is she infertile?" I asked, bracing myself. "No," Miller said. "In fact, she's been pregnant 3 times in the last 4 years." The room went silent. I couldn't process it. "Abortions," Miller said. 3 of them. The last one was 6 months ago. Right around the time you announced your pregnancy. I felt sick. She aborted them? But she wants a baby so bad. She cries about it every day. "Yes," Miller continued, "but here's the kicker. She's not infertile, she's broke, and she's lazy." I found text messages between her and Chad on a clouded account. Miller emailed me the screenshots. I opened them, and the reality of the situation hit me like a physical blow. Bella wrote, "Ugh, the test is positive again. I can't deal with a screaming brat right now. We have the Cabo trip in July. It'll ruin my body for the beach." Chad responded, "Just get rid of it. Tell your mom it was a miscarriage. She'll send us healing money again. We can use it to pay off the Jeep." My jaw dropped. The fertility struggles, the miscarriages, the grief, it was all a grift. She wasn't trying to have a baby. She was getting pregnant, terminating it, and then playing the victim to get pity money from my parents. She had monetized her own womb. "Wait," I said to Miller, feeling bile rise in my throat. "If she doesn't want a baby, why is she trying to steal mine?" "Read the next screenshot," Miller said. I scrolled down. Bella wrote, "Hannah's baby is the golden ticket, Chad. If we adopt him, Mom and Dad promise to pay off the mortgage and give us a $2,000 monthly stipend for nanny costs. Plus, I can Instagram the whole miracle adoption thing." "Sponsorships, baby. Think of the diaper deals." Chad responded, "But you have to actually take care of it. That sounds like work." Bella wrote, "No, I don't. Mom will practically live here to help. And when he gets annoying, we just hire a night nurse on Dad's dime. It's a prop, Chad, a cash cow. And it will destroy Hannah, which is a nice bonus." I ran to the bathroom and threw up. My son wasn't a baby to her. He was a content strategy. He was a way to pay off her credit card debt. He was a prop for her Instagram feed. And my parents? They were funding it. They were literally buying my child from me to give Bella a new toy because she was bored. "There's one more thing," Miller said when I came back to the phone. "Your parents, they refinanced their house last week. They pulled out $50,000 in equity. Why? To build an in-law suite addition on Bella's house. For the baby. They've already paid the contractor. They were so sure they were going to break me. They were so sure I would crumble under the pressure and hand him over. They had already started construction on his room in her house." "Miller," I said, my voice shaking with a rage that felt ancient. "I need certified copies of everything. The clinic records, the texts, the refinance papers, everything. You got it. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to have a baby," I said, "and then I'm going to burn their world down." I went into labor 4 days later. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell my sister. Dave drove me to a hospital 2 towns over, one we had pre-registered at under a confidential status using a fake name. It was a hard labor, 18 hours, but when Leo came out screaming and pink and perfect, the fear vanished. I looked at him, his tiny fingers, his dark hair, and I knew I would tear the throat out of anyone who tried to take him. We stayed in the hospital for 2 days. On the second day, my phone rang. It was Mom. Hannah, where are you? We drove by your house and the car is gone. The neighbors said they saw you leave with a bag. I took a deep breath. I put the phone on speaker. I'm at the hospital, Mom. I had the baby. What? She shrieked. And you didn't call Bella? She needs to be there for skin-to-skin bonding. The first 48 hours are crucial for the adoptive mother. You are ruining everything. He's not being adopted, Mom. We had an agreement. No, you had a delusion. Listen to me. Her voice dropped to that scary, low tone. We are coming to the hospital. Tell us which one. If you don't, Bella is going to file for emergency custody on the grounds that you are mentally unstable. She'll tell the police you threatened to harm him. Do not test us, Hannah. Okay, I said. Come to Mercy General, room 402. I hung up. Mercy General? Dave asked. We're at St. Jude's. I know. Mercy General is where I sent Miller to meet them. With the police? With the police. And the folder. According to Miller, it was a spectacle. A glorious, catastrophic spectacle. My parents, Bella and Chad, stormed into Mercy General demanding to see their baby. They were carrying balloons that said, "It's a boy," and a car seat. When the nurses told them there was no patient by my name, Bella started screaming that I had kidnapped the child. She threw a vase of flowers across the waiting room. Security was called. Then the police. And that's when Miller stepped in. He handed the police officers the file, the text messages threatening to kidnap my baby, the falsified police reports to CPS, the threats of fetal abduction, the evidence of harassment. But he also handed a copy to my parents. Miller told me later that seeing their faces when they read the texts about the abortions was worth his entire fee. The texts calling my mom a gullible ATM. The texts calling the baby a prop. The texts detailing exactly how Bella planned to dump the baby on our mom so she could go on vacation. My dad apparently read the page, looked at Bella, and turned the color of gray ash. You weren't infertile? He whispered. We spent $40,000 on IVF treatments for you. We mortgaged the house. Fake IVF treatments, Miller corrected, stepping forward. She pocketed the cash. She's been going to a clinic across state lines to terminate pregnancies and then billing you for fertility procedures. Bella tried to deny it. She tried the fainting act, but Chad, coward that he is, cracked immediately when the police mentioned fraud charges. It was her idea, he yelled. She made me do it. She said you guys were too stupid to notice. My parents stood there in the hospital lobby, balloons bobbing above their heads, watching their golden child get handcuffed. Not for trying to steal my baby, though that investigation was coming, but for filing a false police report about the kidnapping and creating a public disturbance. My mom didn't cry for Bella this time. She didn't rush to save her. She just stood there holding a balloon, looking like her entire life had been a lie, which it was. We didn't go home for a month. We rented an Airbnb just to be safe. But we didn't really need to run. The Golden Child empire didn't just crack, it pulverized. My parents didn't just cut Bella off. They sued her. My father, the man who had enabled her every mistake for 30 years, went nuclear. He sued her for the money for the fake IVF. He sued her for the business loans. He sued her for the nursery edition. Bella and Chad lost their house. They declared bankruptcy. Chad left her for a 19-year-old he met at a vape shop and took the car. Bella is currently living in a studio apartment, working retail for the first time in her life. She tried to reach out once, a letter sent to my office. I know you're mad, but I need $5,000 for a deposit on a new place. Leo would want his aunt to be safe. I shredded it. As for my parents, they tried to pivot. Once the shock wore off, they realized they had lost both daughters. Bella because she was a fraud, and me because they had betrayed me. They sent expensive gifts. I sent them back. They showed up at my door once, begging to see him. We didn't know, my mom sobbed on my porch. She tricked us too. We were victims too, Hannah. No, I told her. You weren't victims. You were accomplices. You were willing to take my son away from me because you loved her more. You were willing to sign a contract to steal a human being. You don't get to be grandparents to a child you tried to purchase. I closed the door and locked it. We moved 6 months later. No forwarding address, new jobs, new life. Leo is 2 now. He's happy. He's loud, and he has no idea that his grandmother tried to buy him or that his aunt tried to use him for clout. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had signed that paper, if I had been weaker. I'd be sitting alone in an empty house, watching my sister post photos of my son on Instagram, captioned #MiracleMom. But instead, I'm here. And she's somewhere scrolling through photos of a life she was too selfish to earn and too stupid to steal. We're expecting baby number 2 in November. We haven't told anyone, and we never will.